fellow Toastmasters, guests, family and friends, welcome. I was born in a tiny rural community in Thomaston, Alabama. I was the 17th of 21 children.
Oh my God.
My mother had 17 boys and 4 girls. We lived in what was called a shotgun house. You could go through the front door and arrive at the back door in 30 seconds. The house had 3 unique rooms. One room, Mom could sit in the front room where there was a bed. There was a middle room where there was a fireplace where all the boys slept. And then there was a back room for the girls and a kitchen. Life was simple on the farm. I could wake up every day where life was happy and it was fun. I could go outside and I could play all day with my marbles. And I could climb the chinaberry tree, or I could go in the backyard and climb the tree and eat a peach one after the other. Life was simple. I could remember when we woke up, the rooster would crow, and you can still hear it today. And it would wake all of my brothers and sisters up. And just as we were awakened, it was time for them to do their chores. And each of them would take to the field, and they would plant corn, okra, peas, watermelon, and the list went on and on. And at times, they would let me participate. I was only 6 years old, and I can remember it as if though it was yesterday. Because when the sun came up, it would smile on my face as the dew faded into the sun. Then I would go down by the creek with my cane pole. My friend Nate was with me, and we would sit on the edge and we would fish for hours. And while fishing for a period of time, we would then take a break and we would take off all of our clothes and we would jump into the creek and we would swim. And it was exciting. And then we would get out and we would dry off. Take about an hour, then we would just say, let's lay out under the tree. We would look up under the pecan tree. We would watch the birds singing one-note songs. The bumblebees were on the plants, one after the other, one after the other. And it was just so beautiful to watch life on the farm. Everything was simple. And on a weekend when we couldn't travel very much, we would remember to celebrate, because when you live on a farm, there wasn't much time to travel. You had to take care of all of the necessities and the animal, the pigs, the hogs, the cow, the goats. Life was simple on the farm. We had a time that when people celebrated recognizing your neighbor's name, we cared about each other. We did things that was meaningful. We respected our elders. We had one of the most wonderful experiences, life on the farm. It was there I learned what it meant to be human. I learned the value of life, the value of others, what makes us significant and what makes us important. And because of that, I will never forget the life on the farm. Thank you.
You guys doing okay? My name is Johnny Sunshine, and I'm going to be your tour guide today of True-opia, your true utopia, the real world. So you may ask, what is this magical place? Well, good question, I'll tell you. This place is a place where everybody feels young. You got energy. Now, I look good for my age. That's what people tell me. I'm 65 years old. Yes, sir, Bob. And guess what? People here, they live long lives. They have, again, lots of energy. and they fly. They can run and jump without any pain. Here in Truopia, people don't die of cancer, not heart disease or stroke. People die of natural causes, old age. And I read in the paper, McDonald's is shutting their doors. Do you know why? Wow. Anybody know why? Well, that's a good question. I'll tell you why. I read that people are eating vegetables and fruit because they want to, and they like it. Yes, sir. And I also read at St. Joseph's Hospital has to close their doors. You know why? 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 A good question. The reason is because people are not sick anymore. People got lots of energy. You don't have to wait to go to the doctor. Instead, I've heard St. Joseph's are reinventing themselves. They're building this huge complex, state-of-the-art kitchen, and it has cooking classes. We're gonna have adult playground, trampolines, a spa, and better yet, guess what? Medicare is covering it. Now you may be wondering, what is going on here? How did this Truopia start? Well, let me tell you the history, my story. I wasn't always this jolly. My name used to be called Crabby. I was really crabby. I cursed the skies, and I walk like this, with a snarl on my face. I hated the world, and I was taking 173 pills every day, and it didn't work. I still hurt everywhere. And then they changed my insurance. I had to see a new doctor. Dr. Sunshine? What kind of name is that? Anyway, he didn't make me wait. I went right in, and he sat me down. He said, Crabby, do you really want to feel better? And I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, Crabby, if you really want to feel better, health ain't going to come to you. You got to go out and find your health. You got to decide and choose it. You own it. Take responsibility for you. I took that to heart. He planted a seed in my mind. And I feel everybody deserves to feel fabulous, to have energy, feel young. So I built this Truopia. Everybody's welcome. You can check out our website, truopia.com. Yes, sir. We're here to serve you. We want you to enjoy. Now we're ending the tour right now, and you mighty nice folks, I hear you Toastmasters have lots of energy, but I want you to know that you can come by anytime you need it. We're here for you to serve you. A place where your dreams can come true. Truopia.
And that is how you live a wonderful life. Madam Contest Master, I had just completed the perfect speech, the best speech of my entire life. It all started 2 years before that. I got an invitation in the mail to the world's greatest speaker contest, presented by Demona Media Incorporated. Wow, what an experience. I competed, I came up, and I actually made it to the final out of millions of people. But still, that one phrase in that release got me. I never understood what it meant. It said, upon death, all contestants will give to the winner an item of no monetary value. What did that mean? Oh, I don't care. I signed up anyway, and I made it. I'm here in the finals. I was the 5th contestant out of 6. The 4 guys before me and ladies, they were brilliant. It was going to be real close between the 5 of us who would win this contest. The only one left was the owner of Demona Incorporated Media. She was given the 6th spot automatically. She didn't have to compete. But who was this woman? Nobody knew. It was a mystery. The company was a mystery. Nothing on Facebook. Nothing in any kind of social media, no history on them at all. So the world waited. Millions and millions on TV. We all stood and watched the other end as she came out. They announced her name, and there she came, prancing onto the stage. She owned that stage. She owned all of us. She owned the world, and we were just ants in her garden. What a magnificent figure. Dark hair, an outfit to match. Her complexion was dark, and her red, blood-red lips. But it was her eyes. Her eyes could look at you, and she would tear right through your soul and rip it asunder. What a stage presence. The place went silent. Then she began to speak. And she spoke and touched on every base emotion, bringing in the primal feelings of every human being. She played us like a master plays a violin, a Stradivarius. Emotions up, emotions down, emotions up, emotions down. Something was disturbing to me, though. There was something wrong with that speech. I'd heard it before by others, but I couldn't place it. Finally, she finished her speech, and the place erupted with a standing ovation for minutes. And I realized, I remembered who and where I had heard that speech before. It was the speech of Caesar. It was the speech of Napoleon and Stalin and Herr Hitler. There was no greater human calling here. This was a base call, a call to our raw emotions. There was no virtue in it. I looked at her again and I saw her for the first time. Those eyes were red, piercing with an evil hatred of all creation. Those blood-red lips, they were not blood red. They were red with blood. I knew her other names now. Beelzebub, Satan. And that curious phrase, an item of no monetary value. Our souls don't have monetary value. What? A what? A what? A what? I'll see you all in hell.
I fly small planes, and it's long been my fantasy that I would be a passenger on a big airliner, and somehow or other, the pilot and the co-pilot would become disabled, and I would land the plane and be a hero. Well, not too long ago, I was on a Swedish Airlines flight to Reykjavik, Iceland. And the chief stewardess, named Inga, made an announcement on the PA system. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The captain would like to welcome any pilots who are aboard. If you are a pilot, please raise your hand. Well, she seemed a little nervous. Could this be it? I raised my hand. Inga came up to me. She asked to see my pilot's license. It says here you are qualified to fly the Piper Cub. What is the Piper Cub? Well, it's an airplane like this, only a little smaller. Good, come at me, baby. So she led me into the cockpit. And there, slumped over their seats, was the captain and the first officer, the co-pilot. Yes! Are they dead? I think if they was dead, they would not be snoring. I mean, the pilots are asleep? Yeah. They was tuned to the biography channel. There was the story. There was the story called The Inspirational Moments in the Life of Charlie Sheen. They passed out cold. Well, Inga and I quickly laid the two officers down, and I assumed the captain's seat. Fortunately, the autopilot was flying at this time. A moment later, a passenger rushed into the cockpit. Inga is passing out drinks to everybody because you're flying the airplane. Well, I can't help. No, that's good. We've decided we don't want to go to Iceland. We'd like you to take us to Aruba in the Caribbean. Well, whatever. So I dialed Aruba into the GPS, and the autopilot turned the airplane to a new course. Piece of cake, I thought. Well, then when it was time for us to be on final approach into Aruba, the autopilot made an announcement. I don't do landings. I grabbed the wheel and I made my usual landing. Then the ground attendant motioned me to my parking space. Suddenly I realized I didn't know where the brake was. Fortunately, I found the ignition key and got the engines off just in time. Well, it turned out that Aruba was hosting an international poker championship contest. Well, I love poker, and I was able to enter. 3 days later, I called the airline. If you want to know the flight schedule, press 1. For the lost baggage, press 2. I pressed 2. Please describe the lost baggage. Well, actually, I lost your whole airplane. How do you lose the whole airplane? No limit Texas Hold'em. The airline had to buy back the airplane for $2 million, which they charged to my MasterCard. I'll be debt-free in July of 2074. But I had my moment, my fantasy, and I'm going to do it again. I've booked a flight to Vegas on Sucker Airlines, and I've gotten a DVD from the book Honesty and Modesty is the Best Policy by Donald Trump. I'm going to slip that into the entertainment console of the pilots, and then I'll sit back and wait for the announcement. If you're a pilot, please raise your hand.
I'm a sales rep. I drive 1,000 miles a week. My wife is certified in the state of Florida as a master gardener. I've got a silver Altima. It's fast, and she's got style. In the center of our front lawn is a huge live oak tree, surrounded by Florida ferns, bromeliads, and 5 tons of mulch. In front of the tree is a red and white sign, CPCA Community Garden of the Month. I was driving home from a conference in Miami a couple Sundays ago. I was weary. The Talladega 500 was on the radio. Carl Edwards was the lap leader. And the hot Florida sun was scorching my weary eyes. My head snapped back and my eyes flew open. I looked at a speedometer, pegged at 160 miles an hour. I was going faster and faster down Alligator Alley. My accelerator was stuck to the floorboard. I reached down, tried to pull it out, couldn't get it free. I mashed on the brakes. They disintegrated instantly, and I saw pieces of brake in my rearview mirror bouncing down Alligator Alley like charcoal briquettes escaping from a Weber grill. Only one thing I could do to survive. Hang on to that wheel and ride it out until she ate up all the gas. I was flying up Route 75. I hit the turnoff on 275 for the Skyway Bridge and took it on 2 wheels. I blew through the toll booth at the base of the Skyway, and in my rearview mirror watch it explode like a miner's shack in a cowboy movie. I hit the base of the Skyway Bridge, the continuous variable transmission. Screamed out and I shot up to the apex of the Skyway Bridge, and then I launched. I was going higher than I'd ever been before. And the car came to a rest and held suspended for a moment that seemed like an eternity. And then the nose dipped, and I began plummeting straight down to earth and certain death again. I was flying downwards, out of control, no idea what to do, but I had to come up with something. I reached in my console and pulled out my handy roll of duct tape that I always carry with me. From the back seat, I grabbed the cardboard storyboard that I used at the conference, taped it to my left arm, dropped down the window, shot it out, and I was in control. I could bank right. I could bank left. I could begin my descent into the Tampa Bay area. I circled down 10,000, 9,000, 8,000 feet. The state of Florida was laid out beneath me like a satellite map on the Weather Channel. I could see the dogleg of Pinellas County, and I started vectoring north and east towards Carrollwood. 5,000, 2,000 feet. I'm searching for the Country Place subdivision. And then I see a red and white sign. CPCA, Community Garden of the Month. I drew a dead bead right on it. Now, I'd never landed an airplane before, no less a car being flown with a cardboard wing. I hit Heath Avenue, 4 tires exploding, the car bounced 100 feet into the air. When I came back down, the momentum drew the front of that car straight into that damn red and white sign and pinned it to the side of the live oak. Wheels were still spinning, and it went around and around that tree, churning up Florida ferns, bromeliads, and 5 tons of mulch. Eventually, it buried to the axle and stopped. And Carl Edwards won the Talladega 500. I was so happy to be home. I did what Carl Edwards did every time he wins a Sprint Cup race. I climbed out of that driver's side window. I stood on the windowsill, bent my knees, and did a backflip. Yeah! Then I heard a voice from the garage. Oh, Michael, you're home early. There she was. Frizzy hair, lovely smile, Sunday afternoon glass of Cabernet in her hand. And that's when my trouble began.
Fellow Toastmasters, I have a story that is strange but completely true. Now, I want you to sit there for a moment and think about the craziest, no, most preposterous drink concoction that you yourself have ever made or have ever ordered at a bar. Now, wipe that clean from your memory bank. This is my Pepe, French for grandfather, who, just before his 18th birthday, entered the U.S. Navy during World War II. So, in a time where there were no alcoholic beverages in the area for them, he and his friends desperately wanted to find something that could take their mind away from the horrors that were going on around them. Well, with no alcohol on board, or aboard the ship, what were we to do? So my uncle and his buddies, or excuse me, my grandfather and his buddies came up with this ingenious idea, which to most of us would seem certain death. They took jet fuel that had been used, jet fuel that had not been used, and they secretly squirreled it away. And also, when they were in the mess area, they somehow managed to secretly squirrel away loaves of white bread. The regular sunshine type of white bread that you see, except it was not sliced. So they would take this jet fuel and they would position the bread and they would filter the jet fuel through the bread. And now this didn't happen just one time, this was a process. It happened day after day. Once they felt the jet fuel was ready to be mixed with something that could quite possibly be consumed, they stole cans of concentrated juice from the mess area. To this day, my grandfather says he has no idea how nobody knew that they were stealing all of these items. So, when they were at their peak of being tired, bored, anxious, whatnot, they took that filtered jet fuel that had some alcohol content in it that had been taken from the bread, mixed it with that canned orange juice or lemonade or whatever it was that they were able to get their hands on, and they got plastered. They were having the time of their lives, even though they were in the middle of this horrendous war. Now, they did this time and time and time again. And I know that that seems completely impossible. I know that it seems that the person who were to ingest this would meet certain death. Now, if you do go online and you research whether or not jet fuel can be consumed, there are sites that say one should not do that. They will certainly have problems with their esophagus, problems with their internal organs. They will certainly have some sort of side effect that would cause them to become very ill or possibly die. This is a picture of my grandfather now. In February, he will be 93 years old. There, to me, is no possible explanation as to how he survived drinking all of that somehow filtered alcohol and juice, but he did. And you know what he passed down to me besides the story? Alcohol. When I was around 3 or 4 years old, he used to give me sips of beer. And I would bump into the walls. I would bump into the tables. And my parents just thought it was because I was born with cerebral palsy. Nobody knew any wiser. Now, my grandfather is an amazing man. He has lived through so much, and I have so much respect for him. But I also realize my limits when it comes to alcohol, because I never want to be in a position where I take something like jet fuel or hairspray and turn it into a drink. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story of juice and jet fuel.
I used to be a very messy person. If you went into my house, you would find it was very dirty. I had dishes, dirty dishes stacked to the ceiling high. I had piles of clothes on the floor. Clean clothes and dirty clothes all mixed in together. My floors were never swept or mopped. In my yard, I would never mow the lawn unless my yard was this high and the grass. And one day, I come home to find, to my surprise, my lawn was immaculately mowed. I opened up the door, and my house was sparkling clean. The dishes were clean, the clothes were put away, folded, washed, and ironed. I was like, wow. You know, I don't know what happened here, but I'm not going to question it. This went on for about a month. And I was in my backyard, I'm looking around, I noticed this one tree. It looked kind of weird. I'm like, the tree looks weird, and I go a little bit closer, and I see some smoke coming up. I go a little bit closer, and I smell, and I said, it smells like brownies. Then I look a little bit closer, and I see these little elves going into the tree. And I'm like, hey, you elves, what are you doing in my tree? This little elf looked up at me and said, hey, how you doing? My name is Anthony Gambino. and I am a tree baker elf. I'm like, what are you doing? You baking brownies in there? He goes, no, we're baking cookies. I'm like, baking cookies? Yeah, you want to come in and check out our operation? And I said, well, I'm too big to go in that tree. And he goes, no problem, just take one of these cookies. I look at him, said, all right, take one of the cookies. Then things start swirling around, and I started shrinking down, 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 to the size of a tree elf. And miraculously, my clothes shrunk with me. I then enter into the tree, and I see this large bakery. I see all these little elves running around in baker hats, baking all these delicious cookies. Peanut butter cookies, oatmeal raisin, and my favorite, chocolate chip. And I'm like, wow. And then Anthony says, follow me. I want to introduce you to the boss. We call him the Godfather. I'm like, the Godfather? All right. So we go into this office, and there's this elderly elf there. And he comes up to me and goes, Mr. Kilroy, so glad to finally meet you. My name is Victor Bambino, but my elves call me, and you can call me, the Godfather. I'm like, the Godfather? Well, I want to know what you guys are doing in my tree baking cookies. He says, well, let me tell you a little bit something about us. We bake the cookies for several Italian family-owned restaurants along the East Coast. And we are coming into Florida. And we also belong to a much larger organization where we offer family casino gaming and entertainment. We also offer insurance and protection. And we would like to stay here in the tree. In fact, you might have noticed my elves have been cleaning your house and mowing your lawn since we got here. We'd like to continue that as compensation. Plus, we'll pay you a monthly fee. And we'll also want to give you full lifetime protection and insurance. I'd like you to meet two of my associates. This is Anthony Scarface Gambino and Lou Pachisi Bambino. They are assigned to you for your personal protection. And I think this is an offer you cannot refuse. I looked at his two associates, Mr. Scarface and Mr. Luigi, and these were two well-dressed Italian elves that looked really mean. I looked at the Godfather and I said, I think we have a deal. This arrangement went on for a couple years. Until one day, I got a mail from the IRS that they were auditing my taxes. And the next day, the elves and the tree were gone. Mr. Toastmaster.
10th Avenue freeze out. 10th Avenue freeze out. Whoa, whoa. That was the night of my life. The most memorable night of my life. Getting to sing with Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band live on stage in front of thousands of people with my friend John, Bobby, and Al standing right next to me. Only 5 minutes earlier, we found ourselves backstage, my friend John and I. We were pinching ourselves. We couldn't believe it. Here we were, handing out dry towels and water bottles to Bruce Springsteen, the boss, and the E Street Band. This couldn't be real. Now, I've always heard that Bruce Springsteen is a pretty down-to-earth guy, but I couldn't believe it. He's just the most humble guy. Until I met him, and then I believed. he said to me, let me get this straight. You wanna take a photo with me and the band? Sure, no problem. Hey, Vinny, that shouldn't be anything against policy, right? I heard you guys helped my friend Bobby down there from getting trampled. I appreciate that. He means a lot to me. Oh, really? You guys want to name your firstborn children after me? You probably don't want to do that. Bruce is a hard name to grow up with. Tell you what, fellas, how would you like to join me on that encore presentation on stage for that last song? Come on up with me. Rewind 30 minutes ahead. John and I were as giddy as schoolgirls. We had just won the jackpot. Here we were, following Vinny, the backstage manager for Bruce Springsteen, to go help out in the green room. Oh, we struck it rich. How did we get this opportunity? Vinny covered all the ground rules. He wanted to make sure we knew exactly what we had to do to help the band when they came back to rest and recuperate. Vinny covered everything, but most importantly was this. Vinny did not want us to interfere with the band when they came back to get their rest. And he peppered us with questions like, are you allowed to ask Bruce or the band any questions when they come back here? Are you allowed to ask them for a photo? Are you allowed to ask Mr. Springsteen for an autograph? Again, are you allowed to ask any questions of the band? Anything. Capiche? Okay. Rewind an hour earlier. John and I were standing there in front of the stage, dripping with sweat. We were exhilarated, exuberated, and exhausted from a 5-hour Bruce Springsteen concert. It was beyond words. And I almost fell over, not because I was exhausted, because I almost tripped over something. I looked down, and it was a man who had fainted on the floor. He was completely unconscious. So John and I quickly grabbed him, and we got him to his feet. And before we could say anything, we couldn't believe ourselves. Could this be? It was Robert De Niro. Before we could say anything, another man came running in from the side. Bobby! Bobby! Are you all right? Are you hurt? He came to his senses and woke up. A little bit. Mr. De Niro was so happy that we helped save him. He asked us, how did you find me down there? I was yelling and screaming. Nobody understood English. You found me. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. What can I do to repay you? Yes, actually, I can do that. My cousin Vinny is the backstage manager for Bruce Springsteen. Tell you what, fellas, how would you like to go backstage and meet Bruce? And all this because I was smart enough to ask one question of my friend on the last leg of our European vacation. Hey, John, how would you like to go catch Bruce Springsteen in Spain?